Hi, and welcome back to Pushbox Banter. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Craig.
And this week we're back. We're in Australia.
Yes.
We're down under.
Yes, down under. And I will not attempt to do an Australian accent because I do like people that actually listen and want to listen. I don't want to injure your ears in any way, shape, or form.
Exactly.
Yes. Australia. It's one of the nice countries, a country that's a continent. It's the few, if not the only one that's that way.
Yeah.
So Australia, one of the other things that I think is pretty cool. I don't know about you guys, but whenever you look at the track, the outline of the country, the continent, Australia, the racetrack, it looks similar.
It looks very close, yeah.
It looks like if they could have just designed it a little bit, but
I think that's what they were going for.
I don't know. It's close enough to where it's like, it's just a coincidence. I don't think they would, because if they could have, if I was designing, I would have.
Yeah.
That's probably why I'm not designing racetracks for F1.
No, I agree.
So, Australia.
Well, yeah. So I think we have to start with Williams.
Yeah. You sure you don't want to start with the Botas commercial?
Oh, so
because it's pretty great.
Yeah, the
if
Botas
you guys
commercial
haven't
was
seen
pretty
it.
good.
Yeah.
What did you think about the Botas commercial?
Well, I haven't gone out and bought an outfit like his yet.
Yeah.
But maybe that's on my week's to-do list. No, I thought it was hilarious, and I think that the car, because it's for you guys that haven't seen it, it's a Uber
Car share,
right?
Yeah,
and,
that's right.
And he's like in Australia.
Yeah.
And so it's this car. It's really funny because he has like all these different things that, that help out. And it has like a bug spray, and it has like some type of gear to help with his mullet or help fluff his mullet or something. I forgot exactly what it's called, but it's pretty funny.
Yeah. Bug reduction system was the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
VRS. And there was a nice little pause in between.
Yeah. Check it out. If you haven't watched it, you'll laugh. You'll get a good kick out of it. Cool. And no, they're not a sponsor of ours, so you know that you really will get a good kick out of it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So we've got to start with the moment of silence.
Okay, that's good enough. so, what was this moment of silence for?
The
Maybe
moment
I should
of
ask
silence.
that first,
Yeah, so
right?
the moment of silence is for Logan Sergeant's confidence.
You think it's gone?
It is gone.
How do you
It is
know?
no longer.
No.
Yeah.
He's Logan Sergeant.
Sergeant.
He's a good soldier.
He's been Albanished.
Oh, my, yes. Oh, Daniel, you're very proud of that one, aren't you?
I am, actually.
So Williams, yeah.
Yeah, so leading up to the race, we had FP1, and Albon had a huge shunt on turn 6, which we've seen a lot of in the past, and we saw it a couple times during the weekend, and he had a huge shunt. He looks like he missed the apex and then ended up kind of crashing into the following wall, right? And then, we're looking forward. We're we finish FP1, we go to FP2. We're looking to see him there, and we don't see him. So what was going on? We find out that the team does not have a spare chassis, and the car that he was driving had some sort of crack in the cell that holds the driver or something like that, right? Then we move forward to FP3, and who do we see? We see Albon.
All right.
In Logan Sergeant's car. James Vowles comes out, says he's really, he's had to make the most difficult decision of his career. One that wouldn't be a popular one, but does it anyway. Gives Logan Sergeant's car to Albon, thinking, it's going to be the best decision for the team, the best possibility to get points. And at this point, we're going on to FP3, free practice 3, right? And Albon has, little confidence in the car right now. It's not a car that's his, right? They had to basically, because of some of the allocations that each driver's assigned, not only did they take Sargent's car, but then they had to redo Sargent's car with all the components that were for Albon.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? So, they bench Sargent. They say he's a good sport and that he's taking it in stride. And for the most part, it seems like he is, right? But not having a spare chassis 3 races in. Craig, what are your thoughts? What do you think?
That in today's day and age, it's pretty unacceptable. I mean, there's been a lot of that has come out about Williams this past week, and one of the things that came out was that they were managing their parts off of an Excel spreadsheet. So, I mean, imagine like most of us, we work for different companies that have, inventory systems, or know of people that work for companies with inventory systems. And there's specific programs that are used to keep that. And Excel is typically not one unless you're, you're starting up or something along those lines. Usually once you get along in a certain level, you've moved on from Excel. And so here Williams is using this Excel spreadsheet, and they, over the past off season, one of the things was, James, it was the team principal. It's like, hey, we're behind. We're way behind in a lot of ways that we do things here at Williams. So they decided basically to rip the Band-Aid off and try to fix everything as fast as they could.
Right.
So in doing so and in creating their new car for this year, they had people like working all night, sleeping at the factory, putting everything together kind of last minute. And so when I hear, they don't have a chassis, well, okay, it kind of makes a little bit of sense. Like you've got chassis with the carbon fibers that are made. It's not something where it's, just something that's easy to put together necessarily,
right, you
but
can't
still
just machine it.
Like this far in, you would think that they would have it, but also leading up to the start of this season, they were the very last company team to reveal their car.
Yeah.
And the reason was because it wasn't ready until the time that they revealed it. Now, they're pretty positive, and they think that they're going in the right direction, that the car is getting a little bit better, and should move in a positive direction. But, I mean, now that they wrecked this one chassis, are they going to be able to have it fixed in a couple of weeks for Japan? That's one question. Two, everybody's saying that it's going to be probably, later. They'll still probably only have 2 chassis for Japan. So it may be in China before they have 3. It could be after that. I don't know. But so those are a couple of things there. And that's, it's weird when you're talking carbon fiber and you're talking things that have broken on it. It's not necessarily like with steel or with metal. When it breaks, you can see it, right? Carbon fiber, if there's a structural flaw in it, it might be on the inside of it, and so you can't tell. So like one of the ways that they'll tap on it, and hear, and with sound and so forth, and they do ultrasounds and different things like that to figure it out. But what if that chassis, if they can't get it fixed for Japan, so then are they just going to run one person again?
It sounds like they probably will.
And this is something that's kind of crazy to me, because like Williams historically, in the 90s, they're viewed as having the most technologically advanced car ever in the history of the sport. And it was so technologically advanced and above and beyond what the other teams had that they outlawed that technology, because they could adjust the height of the vehicle as it was going along on the racetrack. So they could adjust for downforce, for turns, and all sorts of things, and adjust the suspension. And they won like 3 constructors championships in a row in the 90s with that. So that was back when Adrian Newey was back with them back in the day.
No surprise there.
So they've gone from this, great technologically advanced team all the way down to where they only got 2 chassis and they don't have a spare, and they're running off of Excel spreadsheets. And and the spreadsheet didn't have all the parts. So they're like, how do you find where the parts are kept and so on and so forth. So they're progressing, but they've got a lot to catch up on. So it's not something that's just going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in this case, like it's kind of it's a tough position to be in.
Yeah.
I think for all the parties involved, or at least for, for James and for Albon and for Sargent.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's the great reset with James Vowles, right? It's a good thing that needed to happen. And it's almost like they spent more time improving the car than actually making the car. You know, it's rough not coming into a Grand Prix with only two chassis. I mean, you're asking for, to be in a very uncomfortable situation. So
yeah, they're really taking a roll of the dice.
They really are. What do you think about the situation with Sargent? Like, what's your opinion? Would you have kept Sargent? I mean, Sargent to no fault here, right? What would you have done?
I mean, Albon's the better driver. I mean, statistically speaking, that's how they made their decision, is based off of the numbers. And Albon is better, and he wrecked in F1 or in the first practice one. Sargent in the second practice, he actually spun out. I mean, Sargent was doing better. He isn't the one that wrecked the car.
Yeah,
he was doing okay. But statistically speaking, Albon is the better driver. They are trying to get some points. They thought that this was an opportunity for them to get points. I mean, their decision logically makes sense. I think it kind of sucks for Sargent. I think that he's, should he have kept the position? Kind of. There's a part of me that says, he should have been able to drive. But then there's another part of me that's like, okay, this is a team sport, and you put your best person out there, and that's how you go with it. I mean,
yeah.
So
that's rough.
Yeah, it is. It is really rough because I mean, it's just rough.
Yeah,
I think on all parties. I mean, also like Albon, he's got to perform. He's got the weight of everybody on him now because of his own mistake. So he's got to step up to the plate.
Yes, he does. And I mean, it's a team failure at this, putting your drivers in that position and then taking another driver's car. I don't think I'd ever seen one vehicle literally taken and given to the next driver. I think the next closest thing was maybe Mark Webber, Vettel back in the day. They took Mark Webber's front wing and replaced it on Vettel's car. And he ended up getting pole position and won the race. But he did what he needed to do with that situation, right? So, but in this case, obviously the race plays on, or qualifying plays on, and he doesn't do a bad job. And in the race, like it's a referendum almost, like it's saying, you're not it. And so I hope what this does is it gives him a Sainz moment where let the cards fall where they're going to fall, but if I go out with a bang. We've seen it with a few drivers in the past. Checo, when he was at Racing Point, ended up at Red Bull. Sainz currently still jobless, but he's going to end up somewhere. Yeah. We know this. And Sargent, he's in the pinnacle of motorsport for a reason, and he can make it happen. He just has to be a little bit better right away.
Yeah, it's interesting. I saw something recently with the times and basically the gap between first and 20th, and the qualifying times, and they're basically like right now it's like around, the example they were showing was around 5-second difference, right? I mean, really, like that's not a lot. Yeah, and they were showing it and comparing it to something like 20 plus years ago, and it was around a 15-second difference. So, that's you're like, okay, well, Sargent needs to step it up. Yes, he does, right?
Yeah.
But he's really,
But-
really close.
Yeah, but
It's
we're talking about hundredths of a second,
Yeah.
tenths of a second.
Yeah.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right, and it doesn't help. It doesn't help being in a team that only has two chassis, two cars when they should have an extra.
Yeah.
Or that when something breaks, they can replace it.
Part of me wishes that they still had the rule where you could have a third team car, like they used to.
Yeah.
Which is actually kind of ridiculous. But there was like one race. I can't remember the guy's name, but he wrecks badly, right? Trashes the car, gets out of the car, he's fine. Shows him, he jogs back over to the pit and he gets in a spare car and off he goes.
Oh, in the middle of a race.
Yeah, in the middle of a race.
Yeah, the good old days.
Yeah,
the good old days. You could do anything. What did you think about Red Bull?
Red Bull, I think, going into the race and going into race weekend, obviously, everybody after the first couple of races, myself included, I'm like, man, Verstappen's the person to beat for the whole year. I think every race could probably be that way. And then Perez right there with him. And then Ferrari. I think Ferrari, Red Bull are the two top teams, right?
Yeah.
But, you start looking at Australia and you're like, they tend to have a lot of wrecks there.
Yeah.
Are they going to have wrecks again that are going to change things? Kind of change how everything's moving around and the positions. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I start getting in those type of thoughts, and then start watching the practice, and you see some of the different guys going and go, okay, yeah, I'm going to stay with my predictions here. And then you see qualifying, and you're like, hey, Sainz, and I actually saw something with an onboard with Sainz and Sainz and Verstappen, excuse me. And I mean, they were just neck and neck, and it's such a fine line margin of difference between the two.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, this could be a really good race day challenge for Verstappen, and between Verstappen and Sainz. And Leclerc wasn't quite there in qualifying. He had a little bit of issues, didn't go around for the very last one.
So we head into the race, right? We know Max Verstappen's at the front row. We've got Sainz right behind him. What happens?
I mean, right from the start, they take off. Verstappen gets in the lead. And then, the next lap, Sainz overtakes him. And there's like just a hair, like Verstappen makes just a slight mistake. Sainz pounces on it. It's right there. And I'm like, all right.
Yeah, turn 3. I think he made a small mistake.
We have a good race. It's about to happen. This is going to be great. I'm like, all excited, about to jump off the couch. And then the next thing, like Verstappen's like, he's got a little bit of smoke coming out of his car. And it's like, his car's on fire, but not in a good way. And so he ends up having to retire. So his brake, like basically his rear brake, like locks up and ends up catching on fire and
explodes.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. Well, not pretty much. It does.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. I saw that on the way to
his car was lit.
in the pit. His car's lit. Yeah. On the way to pit lane, or in the pit lane, it just, as he hits the brakes, it just goes pop, explodes. Yeah. I was like, gosh, I hope nobody was next to that, because it was a huge puff of smoke. But
yeah, it was. And then like as it drove by and you see the flames just coming out from the back of the wheel.
Yeah.
It's never
that was something incredible that I was just not expecting at all. I mean, we talk about reliability for that car though. Like he had gone 43 races without having a DNF, finishing all of them. And I think the last time was 2022 or something like that.
I don't remember that far back.
In Australia. But yeah, that was quite a shocker. It definitely opened up the field for everybody, especially the lower midfield teams. I was like, oh, okay, now it's on.
It was kind of interesting. You talk about like Perez was talking tire degradation beforehand, and then you've got the brakes going bad there. And I wonder, like, you look back at Leclerc in Bahrain, then he was having brake problems. what was the cause of this brake problem? Did he get something like sucked in and stuck and it caused, the failure? Was it an actual manufacturing failure? Are we going to start seeing more braking failures over the next few weeks?
That's such a good
I
point.
don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know the manufacturer or if they each have different manufacturers. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, no,
on that.
I'm not certain on that either, but that's you bring up a good point. And even Leclerc had a few. He was mentioning having similar problems to about his brakes too. So I think later at the end of the race, we had Christian Horner mention something about Perez picking up floor damage at the end of the while he was going taking over Alonso. So
that kind of makes a little bit of sense with that as the race goes, but because he overtakes Alonso.
I think he picked up some floor damage at some point, maybe going over a curb under that. He said something that he would not have noticed, but did end up picking some damage, and that's probably why after he overtook him, he kind of fell back. I expected him to go on the charge, and I thought for a second maybe it's the degradation issue, because he was, like you mentioned, he was queuing it up since qualifying P3. But yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame that he got that penalty that put him in P6. Otherwise, I think it would have been a closer race and a better. I guess it would have been a better comparison overall with how the other cars, the Ferraris and McLarens, would have done against the Red Bull, because I don't think we actually got to see that. Obviously, we didn't get to see that with Verstappen, and we didn't see it really with Perez because of the supposed damage and just the overall tire degradation. I don't know if you noticed, but when the race was over, you see their, I don't know if you looked at their tires, they were all super marbled, like almost, it was something that you don't see all the time, but I was like, wow, that's crazy that they were able to make it through the end of that last stint, and that's with 2 pit stops. So
but Pirelli sent the softest versions, so they had the C5, C4, and C3 tires, which a lot of the races they'll have, maybe C3, 2 and 1,
right.
So but it was interesting, and that's one of the things. Like as the race goes, Red Bull. Obviously, with Verstappen going out and losing his brakes, we didn't get to see that competition between him and Sainz. And Sainz's car, he led the whole way.
That was definitely a miss.
Guys, if you haven't seen the race.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm sure.
Right
Spoiler alert. No, I'm sure.
Late on that.
But no, it did open up the race for everyone else. We saw Yuki finally get into the points, which was nice. Yay. So good for him. He also got a shout out from Helmet.
Right.
Mentioning that it was hard earned, but well deserved. And then we come to Ricciardo. I know we've opined on Ricciardo a little bit here and there in the last couple of races. It's kind of a problem for him, and I know I had mentioned the possibility of like not seeing him, or I don't want to predict something negatively for Ricciardo, because like you said in our last episode, he is beloved and just seems like the coolest guy, and he had a dismal qualifying. He had a decent lap, went over track limits, and the lap got disqualified, right? Started basically at the back, and throughout the race, I don't think he did much better. With all the DNFs that happened and some of the pit stop problems that happened to Sauber, and just the lack of pace that the Alpines have, you would expect him to have gone into the points, or at least beat the Haas's, right? It's not there. And I think he doesn't know. I don't think he knows what's going on. When he was with McLaren, he knew it was, car setup versus driver style, right? That was an excuse and a valid one, but we're kind of to the point where, okay, now you're back. You're back at Red Bull. You need to deliver. You went through testing. You did the right thing to get the drive. You're there now. You got to keep it before like a mid-season swap.
Yeah.
I feel that with Ricciardo, you have this. He's very like driven by his like past performance. The confidence builds on confidence with him, I feel like, and it's just these blows just keep it coming, and I don't see it. I see it snowballing to the point where he's just like he's not going to be able to come back.
Yeah.
And that's from experience because, he, again, is one of those drivers that left and came back, right? Left not in the best ways either. So,
yeah, he's kind of in a tough spot right now. I mean, he did, like you said, he had a qualifying lap that was pretty good, but it didn't count. But then he gets in the race, starts off at the end. He does pretty well on moving up on the final tally there. But at the same time, like what you've got to the Sauber team below him, and you've got the Alpine team below him, and then there he is, and then you've got some other people in between him and his teammate.
And his teammate, who scored points.
And then his teammate was cruising. He was smooth all day long. He looked good.
Yuki was looking good.
And he's looked good in every race. And so he's
Wow.
He's a little bit on the hot seat, I would say.
Definitely. And what did you think of Ferrari?
Ferrari was excellent. And I mean, their car, they've been trying to build a car that's great in all the situations. I think it is.
Yeah.
I mean, and it looks like Sainz has kind of figured out how to get the most out of that car.
Yeah.
Now, this is where he had a great ride today. He finished like just a few seconds in front of Leclerc. And Leclerc had a great ride. He had a few little things here and there, but overall, like they both looked really good. I think at the end of the race, Sainz had a little bit of tire degradation going on, and so if it was really close, that would have been an interesting thing to see. But he basically, because of how far out he was, they just let him get a little bit closer, at the end because he was going to win. And then Leclerc had plenty of time in between him and Norris. So I thought the Ferrari looked great. It would have been very interesting to see Verstappen versus Sainz the whole way. Now, would Verstappen have won? I don't know. I kind of don't think that he would have, but maybe. He would have. I believe that he would have podiumed or been on the podium. I think he definitely would have beaten McLaren, but I don't know if he would have beaten both Ferraris today. They look great. They looked really good.
Yeah, no, they looked good. I mean, they asked Perez the same question, and Perez mentioned absolutely not that the Red Bulls wouldn't have beat the Ferrari. So
I mean, from looking at the qualifying laps and everything and how they were running,
I think especially
it was close. It wasn't like it wasn't like a few seconds here. It was like just tenths of seconds separating them.
It would have with the tire degradation and just the different abrasiveness of the circuit and the way just the balance of the car was, and the Red Bull, I don't think would have done any different. I don't think the outcome would have been much different other than having, like you said, Verstappen maybe in third. And good for Sainz, coming off, like I mentioned, he just, the most bizarre start to a season, right? Winter break, you get sacked.
Yeah.
Right? You get sacked. And then you come in, you podium, above the guy that's preferred, right?
The natural order of things would be Leclerc
exactly.
to be on top.
Exactly. Yeah. Leclerc should be on top.
Sainz.
And then a week later, you get appendicitis. You got to get a surgery. You miss the race. Everybody's like talking about the next guy coming up, right? Behrman. And this week it was like, well, Behrman who? Right? Yeah. You've got Sainz. wins the race. And yeah, we got robbed, right? We got robbed from that battle with Verstappen, but I mean, he did it in the second lap.
Yeah.
He battled him and he won. And whatever the cause of Verstappen's brake failure was, I don't think would have been much of a difference. And it's nice to see. And what it does is it definitely makes this season more exciting, right?
Yeah, it does.
Undeniably more exciting, because then you go to Japan, and what happens in Japan most of the times, right?
Rain.
It rains. Exactly. So, if there's a moment in time where things can change to the benefit of Ferrari, and that's going to be it. It's going to be in Japan. It's going to be here, and good for him. Tremendous drive, and he's still a team player too. Like, you can't help it. At the very last lap, like you said, he was like, "Hey, have Leclerc get close." He wanted that photo finish.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the Mercedes crashed and was stuck in the middle of the road, so that would have been a problem with the virtual safety car. But either way, excellent from Ferrari. Again, not the biggest Ferrari fan, but gosh, was it nice to see them up there.
Yeah, it was
especially
nice
with that little cam.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but with the champagne bottles that they have at the very end, there's like a camera that's attached to Sainz's bottle. So yeah,
pretty cool. So some other things to highlight. Mercedes. We just mentioned. Russell was stuck in the middle of the road in literally the last lap, right? With his battle with Fernando Alonso, and that's a whole nother deal. But what do you think about Mercedes?
So there's a lot to think about Mercedes. Is it time to start questioning? Is it the downfall of a dynasty?
I think it's there.
Yeah. You've got Lewis Hamilton before the season starts. He signs with Ferrari for 25.
Yep.
And then so far he's looked, very middle of the pack. And his car really has looked middle of the pack. Russell's had challenges with that as well. And then today, of course, his engine just stops on him. It's totally blows on it. So he's able to coast to a place to where he can get off the track pretty quick. But Mercedes, some people are like, man, did Ferrari make the right decision signing Lewis?
Oh yeah.
And here's Sainz and Leclerc. I mean, they really complement each other well. They race well together. They obviously are doing a good job. But but then they point out, well, Lewis Hamilton brings in a whole lot of money.
Yeah,
to the Ferrari nation, and it is a huge thing for him. And will he do better with Ferrari than he is doing this year with Mercedes? Yes, I guarantee he will.
Yeah.
But at the same time, is he going to do as good as Sainz is right now? I don't know. Sainz is having a great run right at this moment. So we'll see.
Sainz has figured it out, right?
Yeah, he's figured it out. So where does he go? All of those questions come up. But yeah, Mercedes, they're in a little bit of a tough spot right now. I don't think that they figured their car out.
Yeah.
McLaren and Aston Martin are running on Mercedes engines, and they're both in front of them.
Yeah.
And they really couldn't catch them. Russell at the very end when he wrecked. He was catching up, but I don't know. I think Alonso was concerned that he was going to pass. He was trying to drive defensively.
It was close.
Yeah, yeah.
It was close, but you're right. Nothing's working for Mercedes. I mean, coming into the season, we know they changed their concept, right? They were running their old concept for 2 years. Nothing was working. They changed the concept, and now it's still a problem. Like, it's fundamental. They were mentioning something about the physics of the car is wrong. Well, physics doesn't change, right? The laws of physics remain the same. So unless science is broken, something's up with that car, and they can't fix it. I mean, they addressed the items with Lewis Hamilton, right? The car seat issue. They addressed some of the workings of the power unit. And, we're how many races in? 3 races in, and there's a power unit failure. And we have some of the customer teams actually complaining and have since replaced a few components, I think. And again, it's the 3rd race. So, I think people are going to want answers. I know that they have changed their technical directors, right? We talked about that happening with Alpine. Recently happened with Mercedes, and nothing's really come from that, right? We haven't seen any results. So they're just kind of hovering in that 6th to 7th, place. So hopefully that works out for them. I think this is the storyline for Mercedes for the next year and a half.
Gosh. Yeah. It's weird seeing Lewis Hamilton just kind of, he looks just kind of doesn't know what to say almost, because he's like he's so not used to being that low in the grid, and he's so used to having success, and then to not have that, it's literally almost speechless. It's very odd.
I think he saw something, right? I think he saw something the last 2 years, and last year he was like, okay, they're not listening. Has said as much, right?
Yeah.
That they don't listen to me, and finally they're listening, but guess what? It's too late.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing that, we're talking about Ferraris, something they're going to benefit from is his feedback. And he understands and knows the car can tell when something's off, right? Not to say that Sainz can't, but they're going to benefit from his experience. He's driven, for Mercedes, for McLaren. He knows what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, hopefully Toto and his team can figure it out. And so, we don't see the silver arrows kind of towards the back.
Yeah.
Strange.
Yeah, it is.
Very.
It is.
We saw some pit stop nightmares.
Yes.
What is going on with Sauber? Like, that's the most unusual thing I've seen, especially from, Sauber's a small team, but they've been around forever.
Yeah.
And to not get the wheel nut right.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird because it's like it's happened multiple times. Like they had problems with the last year. They've had problems with this year. And it's been, I mean, from little bit to big. This time it was a smaller issue than what it has been in the past. But for most teams, it would have been a huge issue just because, I mean, they do have the record for the longest pit stop ever, right?
Yeah. Well, Bottas does.
Bottas does. Yeah.
But so he's I guess
so
he's
he's
used to it
that.
now.
Yeah. He's
But-
bringing that over.
Right. But yeah, I mean, we're talking about 3 races, 3 times. Every race, an issue. And then in this case, Australia, 3 issues. 2 of them with the wheel nut, 1 with a phantom car turning off.
Yeah.
Like what's going on? And for Audi coming in, they're going to be looking for drivers, right? I don't think. I mean, I don't know. I can't predict what's going to happen with Bottas or Zhou. I did mention I think Zhou. I don't know that he'll be on the grid, and if he is, they're going to have to go through the process with Audi. And if Audi's looking to bring in top talent, it's been rumored that possibly Sainz might go to Audi or other drivers. Like, that's not encouraging.
Yeah.
I would not. If you have a Lewis Hamilton leaving Mercedes because they can't figure out their package, we're going to have problems if you want to get drivers if they can't figure out their wheel nuts at Sauber.
Exactly. Like
that's
you're
it
not
just
gonna
doesn't compute.
You're not gonna attract the top people there if your own team in the pit stop can't handle things.
It's really amateurish and not something you'd like to see in a Formula One team. Maybe a Formula 2 team.
Yeah.
But not Formula One. Super sloppy, but hopefully they address it. I think they were saying they have a fix that's coming soon, but soon, like, when is that? Right?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
So our next race, Japan.
Yes. Japan. Yeah. We've got got that coming up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we looked at the weather
Mm-hmm.
and the 2-week forecast says there might be some rain on Saturday and Sunday. So let's look forward to that. It's always a nice little surprise when that happens. Yeah, it's 2 weeks away, and I think it'll be, I think it'll be challenging for everybody.
If it's raining,
if it's raining, it will be.
This is one of the better courses, though, that
Yeah.
everybody really loves to drive.
Yeah.
I know Sonoda is extremely excited about it, according to his post game or post race
interviews. Yeah.
Yes, post race interviews. He was very excited about that.
Yeah. I think he mentioned, he's like, oh yeah, I've driven there like 1,000+ laps. Like, I know it. And yeah, bad for Daniel Ricciardo, right?
Mhm.
But I can see Sonoda doing something nice there in front of your home crowd. It's always different. Unfortunately, we couldn't say the same for Piastri or Daniel. Daniel this race, but
yeah, the stars sort of
is
aligned for McLaren and almost did for Piastri this week, but not almost, but not quite.
Yeah,
He
but
was able to move up some.
Yeah, but Osaka's pretty cool. It's looking back, it's home to some really cool moments in F1 history.
Mm-hmm.
We had Michael Schumacher clinch his first for Ferrari championship.
Mm-hmm.
We had Kimi Räikkönen overtake in a last lap race in, I think, 2005 and won.
Mm-hmm.
So some really cool moments in Osaka. Being so early on, I don't know that anything special outside of, setting the tone for the rest of the year will be.
Mm-hmm.
But I look forward to it.
Ferrari, Red Bull, they are going to be gunning for it in Japan. So it's going to be pretty cool seeing them go back at it. Hopefully no mechanical type issues or anything like that, or any type of issues in the middle of the race causing some slowdowns on any of the cars. Because I really love seeing these guys race and really see what they can do and see how good they are against each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we go, what are your predictions?
My prediction, the knee-jerk prediction would be for Sainz to win again. I think Verstappen will win. And let's see. Yeah, Sainz is right there. Man, he's so good. Yeah. Sainz and Leclerc. I think those three.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna replicate my predictions for Australia. Max, Perez, Sainz.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially if we get a good Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I think Red Bull's gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
The car is there. It's got to fine tune it, right?
Yeah, but Ferrari's right there, man.
Yeah, no, Ferrari's
They're not
right
playing
there too.
around this year.
No.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, it was nice talking to you, Craig.
It was good talking to you as well.
Thanks, everybody.
Good times.
You know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Subscribe, comment, like, do what you do on your
chosen platform.
Your chosen platform.
Yes. Yeah. Usually those buttons are pretty close, so you can,
yes,
take care of business with that.
Exactly.
All right.
Thank
you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.